We're joined today by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Obviously, that introduction was entirely unnecessary, but a few introductory remarks on why we're gathered here today, I think, does make some sense. The worldwide financial crisis, of which we're all so aware, changed virtually everybody's life in some way around our world. There was unprecedented world value destruction. $34 trillion were destroyed as a result of the world financial crisis. And this led to questions about our economic system. It led to questions about its stability.
How many trillion?
34.
So suppose here, I always wondering, these people, capitalist countries, people who are sort of managing money. So this kind of a problem. When I first heard, you see, the global level economic crisis, mainly from the West, I really wonder, those experts, how can create that? So then my own answer is, lack of holistic view. Okay, please.
He was pointing at Dan Daniello, too, you know. One of the most interesting phenomena in the world financial crisis was the questions that it provoked for people around the world. Not questions just about money, but questions about the sources of our own humanity and our own happiness. In every crisis, there lies an opportunity for us to reconsider our values and to reconsider our principles to work toward global humanity. And this is one of those opportunities. That's why we have the privilege of talking to His Holiness here today at the American Enterprise Institute. Those of you gathered know our mission. We believe that expanding opportunity, that working for greater freedom, that the free enterprise system should be a gift to the world, but only if it works for more people, especially for more people who are poor and vulnerable. We need better opportunities to examine our values, better opportunities to exploit thinking about our morals, and to think about what the sources of meaning in our lives really are. That's the beginning of our discussion here today. His Holiness is going to take questions about the nature of this grand discussion from me and from you, and we're looking forward to what we're all going to learn together. Your Holiness, you've written a huge amount on the subject of human happiness. I've read your books on human happiness, and they've influenced me personally a very great deal. To begin our discussion today, simply, how do you define happiness?
Of course, firstly, my English, the vocabulary very limited. And then also, I think, understanding these sort of words' meaning precisely, sometimes I may not show. So in any way, I consider happiness, if you consider as a sort of pleasure, then it is very limited. Sometimes even suffering will bring deep satisfaction. So therefore, I consider happiness, real sense, is satisfaction. Satisfaction brings inner peace. Inner peace brings calm mind. So that's my sort of definition of happiness.
Our introductory remarks, including your reaction about the worldwide financial crisis, makes us think that there's a link in our lives between money and happiness. What is the connection between money and happiness?
That's my main sort of field. I always telling people, real satisfaction or even happiness You see, we have this physical body and mind, emotion. So it's two different levels. So when we say satisfaction or happy life, should not consider only physical level. I think doctors usually give us advice, you should relax. So relax means mental level, not physical. Lay down and some music or some wine, expensive wine. Oh, mentally, too much worry, too much stress. You will never get real relaxation. Physically, maybe in a cave, difficult. But mentally, deep satisfaction. So that's the real sort of relaxation. So relaxation, very much related with mind, not physical level. So therefore, the physical level suffering, pain, can subdue by mental satisfaction. Mental anxiety, mental sort of too much stress or anxiety cannot subdue by physical comfort. Do you agree?
I do.
Oh, damn good. The first topic, agreement. Very good. So therefore, if may I say so, so money only brings material facility and maybe physical health. But some of my sort of friend, I think some American, some European, I think most probably billionaire, when we talk, longer conversation, then I found some of them mentally, emotionally very unhappy, too much stress and deep insight. I think too much self-centered attitude, then they gradually develop loneliness feeling. So that person, money, plenty of money, material facility, excellent facility, but person, unhappy person. Why? It clearly shows money cannot bring inner peace, inner happiness. So therefore, if may I say so now, you see, the very existing education system in modern world, I think very much oriented about material value. That I think understandable. In 1,000 years ago, I remember, so one time, of course, 1,000 years, I mean, you see, one time I got some kind of sort of honorary degree or something in Bologna University in Italy. So they mentioned 1,000 years
history.
It
was they were celebrating the 1,000th anniversary of the founding of that university.
Oh, of course, the number of sort of occasion getting some sort of honorary degree, but that especially I remember because the part of their ceremony, you also put one ring. Monk prohibited wearing. So out of my respect, their also the ceremony, I think 1 hour I put that ring. So I remember that. So 1,000 years ago, when separate education institutions started, then moral ethics side or inner peace side, church take full responsibility. So at that time, it quite well balanced. Now eventually, I think impact or influence from the church, sometimes a little bit
Decline.
decline. So then the separate education institution alone have the responsibility to take care not only brain development, but also development of warm-heartedness. So I often used to telling people everywhere, now it is quite clear, many world crises, of course, poverty or these things, you see, due to lack of money, clear, and because of disease. But many crises actually not due to lack of money, but destructive emotion, anger, hatred, out of extreme self-centered attitude, me, and power, political power, the economic of the economists sort of say the thing. So this, I think, too much sort of concern me and no bother about others. Corruptions come. Gap, rich and poor. Then violence. Like today, I think one sort of example, serious crisis. 1,000 people killed. You see, never concern their life. Bullet. Remain there, no problem. But angry feeling, then use, and then sort of also the no belief about non-violence, then use gun. So I often is expressing real gun control first should take care. So therefore, the existing education system, I feel, inadequate, must include education about moral ethics. So then I often is telling people, the moral ethics through education should include those people, those students, essentially non-believer. And even within believer, different beliefs there. Like India, the over 1,000 years, over 3,000 years, multi-religious sort of society. So therefore, modern India's constitution based on secularism, because the country, multi-religious nation, so the moral ethics based on religious belief. Then next question is, what religion? Complicated there. So there is no other choice except secular based moral ethics. So in the West, traditionally Judeo-Christian sort of background. So sometimes you see, I think even some people, I think use this secular in the sense, atheism, atheistic sort of approach. That's wrong. I think you can interpret that way, but according to Indian understanding, I think basically secularism does not mean disrespect religions. In India, respect all religions. India Constitution provides equal right. So therefore, and then also, I think one great thing about Indian tradition is over 3,000 years, non-believers there, one particular school of thought, actually non-believer. You see, respect that group, that people. So that means these ancient time non-believer, their particular name, Charvaka, one particular school of thought, denying any value of spirituality. So therefore, India's secularism also, you see, respect non-believer. I think that is very relevant to today's world. When we talk about moral ethics, not only for believers, but the entire 7 billion human beings. So among the 7 billion human beings, according to some sort of statistic, they say over 1 billion of humanity are essentially non-believer. So we cannot exclude these people. We must sort of include these non-believer. So education field, about the education, about moral principle, there is no other choice except based on secular way. So that one of my main sort of commitment to promoting. So some my friend, some Christians, some Muslims, little reservation, hesitant. So therefore, I have to work hard to educate them. Secularism, not at all negative attitude towards religion, but rather respect all religion. And actually, I think obviously, a lot of troublemaker on this planet, now 20th century and 21st century, these real troublemaker, I think basically educated people, isn't it?
Oh, sure.
Oh. So therefore, existing modern education failed to guarantee educated people become more sensible person. No. So clearly shows existing modern education system not adequate to bring good human being, sensible human being. Then the question, what else we should add? That's the moral education. Now then, next question, the moral ethics. Some my friend, I remember, I think during divided Germany, one occasion in West Germany, I had one talk. I remember, I think one minister of West German government, he introduced me. So before talk, so we discussed about moral ethics. And then I asked, the moral ethics must be based on religious faith or not? He said, must be based on religious faith. I didn't respond. Oh, good. Then even the late Pope, I usually call the Polish Pope, wonderful, wonderful individual human being, wonderful sort of spiritual master, really wonderful. So one time, because you see, we developed very close sort of feeling, right? So I asked him, moral principle must be based on religious faith or not? He didn't answer. He remained, like that. And then his lieutenant, one cardinal, responded me, moral ethics must be based on religious faith. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there's complications there. So therefore, there's no other choice but except, you see, secular way. And then, mainly, it's based on scientific finding. Now, I'm very happy. One of my very close friends, scientist, author, Richie, yeah, these two. And because of, you see, I really committed in order to know reality, the scientific research is extremely important. So, I think over 40 years, I tried to contact or eventually discussion with scientists, Then eventually we set up some sort of group, because I mean, organization, Mind and Life organization. So now, last nearly 30 years, you see, we almost annually meeting, and also they carry some program in this country, mainly in this country, about secular education,
ethics,
research. So mainly scientific, sort of based on scientific findings, more compassionate mind, physical, much more healthier. Too much stress related with self-centered attitude. And also, you see, anger, considered anger, hatred, fear, very bad for our health. So these also, you see, they ultimately related with self-centered attitude. More compassionate attitude, then release all these too much sort of tight feeling, self-centered attitude. Think well-being of other, then that automatically lose. So result, you see, you find more friends. If you too much stress, I'm important. I always telling people publicly, when I give talk, if I consider I'm Dalai Lama, grade 14th Dalai Lama, actually, that sort of that view, that attitude makes myself as a prisoner, isolate from the audience. So I deliberately stress, I'm another human being. There's differences of also the nationality or faith, different countries or different races. That's secondary. Basically, we are same human being. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. So according to my own experience, you want happy life, do not want suffering. And my emotion, anger, suspicion, destroy my peace of mind. So I understand all people. Also, it's the same sort of situation. More anger, more suspicion, more distrust, automatically develop stress. Then lonely feeling. You can't trust this person. You can't trust this person. That create loneliness here. You open, consider human brothers, human sisters. Immediately open our inner door. So, although some people say my face, in spite of my age, still some people say handsome. Maybe, you see, some connection. Otherwise, I think mainly, wherever I go, when I meet people, or leaders, president, or beggar, to me, same human being. So with that kind of attitude, I really believe you see a lot of friends everywhere. If I too much stress, I'm Buddhist, I'm Tibetan, I'm Dalai Lama, then finally it creates my own sort of loneliness feeling. So some kind of I myself make prisoner. Like that. So they mainly scientific sort of finding about sort of inner peace or healthy body. These inner quality are very, very essential. Therefore, I think when we met, I also mentioned some scientists, like Mind and Life. So now I'm very happy to my long-time friend. Now come here. Yes?
You have said many times that for us to have good capitalism, we need good capitalists. We need people in business who have good moral values and live in a good moral way. What is the most important thing for us to teach to young people so that when they are in business, they can have good moral living?
So I think the present sort of generation who come through one-sided sort of education, such a system, I think difficult to change immediately. We already sort of experience difficulties, man-made difficulties or problems. We already seeing. So then, ultimate, I think, mistake is we are lacking educate or awareness. The moral principles are ultimate source of happy life, happy family, happy community. Not talking about God or not talking Buddha or next life, simply the scientific sort of finding and common sense, common experience. So I always telling people, now 20th century gone, the 21st century, the beginning of 21st century, a lot of unwanted problems, essentially man-made problems. These are symptoms of past mistake, mainly education. So now there is sufficient time. This is just the beginning of 21st century. So more discussions should not sort of satisfy everything existing. Past several centuries this goes. So should be okay. That I think is a mistake. The population increasing day by day. Within this century, end of this century, some people say the population will reach 10 billions. And meantime, a lot of gap rich and poor. That not only morally wrong, but practically also source of problem. So we have to deal these problems. And then environment issue, also now increasing. So therefore, now the reality, every decade, much changing. So our mental thinking, still old way of thinking. Then gap, our views or perceptions and reality increasing. Then our approach become unrealistic. So therefore, education is, I feel, is a key field.
The 15% of Americans say they are unhappy about their lives today. What's the one piece of advice you give people who are unhappy about their lives?
Oh, that's difficult to say. I think 7 billion. I think every 7 billion human being have some kind of problems. Then how to deal these problems is entirely depend on the individual
situation.
Individuals. So overall, I think, firstly, less self-centered attitude. Try to increase sense of concern of others' well-being on the basis of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. And then our brain should use more holistic way. That I feel some help to reduce anxiety when we met some problem. If you look, when we experience some problems, when we look at that problem narrowly, too close and narrowly, then it appears unbearable sort of problem. But if you look from wider perspective, then That's a problem. But okay. That really makes differences. It's the same problem. It much depend on your own attitude. So here, more because holistic view are very, very useful. Like that. Otherwise, I don't know. I also have a lot of problems.
What are your problems, Your Holiness?
Problem. Immediately here, too hot. Then, as a one individual, now getting older, this also gives me a problem. Then, as a Tibetan, a lot of problems. But okay, I always look more holistic way. Very, very helpful. Those are problems actually created by the Chinese communist sort of government. But I always respect Chinese people, great people, hardworking. Generally, Chinese people are very realistic people. So the system, government system, of course, due to government system also, there are some good points also there, but however, they are totalitarian system and closed society. I think really there's also problem. So when we face some problem with Chinese government, they realize there are sort of system, a totalitarian, closed society. This system, not people. People as the same human being. So then, I think anger, hatred need independent target.
Concrete target.
Concrete sort of target. So when you look more holistic, then no independent because of the target no longer there. So very, very helpful to reduce frustrations here. That I usually do.
What can we...
And many Tibetan. I think one Tibetan. I often used to telling people, one old monk, he spent about 18 years in Chinese Gulag. In early 80, he also used to found opportunity to come to India. And because we know very well, so one sort of casual sort of talk. One day, he mentioned during 18 years, few occasions, he really faced some danger. I thought maybe danger on his life. And I asked, what kind of danger? His answer was danger of losing compassion towards Chinese. So result, now his age, 95. Because of Chinese labor, this is some sort of problem. His physical,
He's quite kind of slightly stooped and bent.
I know his mind very, very peaceful, very happy. Because of that kind of mental attitude. Too much anger, too much hatred, then he may not live long. So some scientists also, after we sort of mentioned these things, so some scientists actually, they did interview such people. Then later, they found these people who passing through a lot of traumatic sort of experiences. But there's no traces of traumatic
like PTSD, like post-traumatic.
Like that. So much depend on inner mental attitude.
You say, and we agree, that the Chinese people are our brothers and sisters, but they live in a closed society because of a government.
That's right.
What can we do to help the Chinese people more?
Now you are businessman, right? How many people have some sort of close connection with some Chinese, or say the
Businesses.
business? Huh? So very good. China, people from China, most populated nation. It is world community's responsibility to bring China into mainstream of world community. Now, economically, they themselves also is trying to join world community. But now there are sort of system, political system, that I think as far as the economy system, they already joined American capitalist sort of system. I prefer socialism, genuine socialism. So even I describe myself as a Buddhist monk, as far as socio-economic theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. So now today, I think wrong person who talk those capitalists. So someone, told me, some people, particularly in the connection with our Mind Life organization, some people complain, isn't it? So some people told me that, then I respond, no problem. These also same human being. We all part of the 7 billion human being, and everybody is concerned about the future of humanity. So certain different sort of belief, different concept, that we need discussion. If everybody agrees same thing, then like China, communist system, or over billion population, one mind, suppose one mind. That's why it's a lot of problem there. Different views, different concept must be there. And then should not isolate each other. Or from your side say, that's leftist. Their side say, this is rightist. Wrong. Come together, discuss, talk. I think those scientists, I believe, maybe because of them, my close friend, so maybe my mind a little bit prejudiced. Prejudice. Otherwise, these scientists really open-minded, and they look things very objectively. Not much involve emotion. So we Buddhists, unless you try, otherwise also we become a little bit biased. Many religious people, it's a biased view. So we need education or experience from genuine scientists. Sometimes some scientists are a little bit biased. Only believe science, existing science. Existing science mainly dealing with matters, not mind. So mind is there. Some of these scientists, they also have the experience of stress, anger, hatred, attachment. So this emotion brings a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems, a lot of stress. So they cannot ignore about emotions. So genuine modern scientists, now they begin accept we cannot explain everything on the basis of just matter. There are some other phenomena which we not yet explore. Now beginning of later part of 20th century and now beginning of 21st century, genuine scientists are now really looking not only external world but also internal world. That's a very, very healthy development. So therefore, basically, these scientists, my friend, non-believer, I am believer, but we have very common responsibility, work together. I'm very happy. So therefore, close contact. with Chinese. At the moment, you see, there are many interests. Is economy. So you see, you should go there often, and then also invite some of them come to here. Let them see the free society. And also, you see, when you visit there, generally some criticism. They are closed society. It's long run very harmful for themselves. So I think you can do much sort of constructive work. Go there through friendship. I think very, very important. Then perhaps I think some Chinese hardliners describe me as a demon. So then when opportunity comes, you can tell them, Dalai Lama, you already met, not demon.
That's right.
Genuine human being. Okay.
We have a lot of guests here from outside AEI who are journalists, and this session is off the record entirely, but they have some interesting questions. And I want to turn now to Jim Engel from Fox News, who will wait for the microphone and has a question for Your Holiness.
Thank you, Your Holiness. We've been having a debate in the U.S. about the value of work. In your view, what is the meaning of work to the individual, to the soul, aside from whatever monetary advantages there may be?
I think work means action. And also, you see, the work is because a way to live, right, to earn. I think in the free country, I think great thing is have the opportunity to utilize human creativity. So, because of the initiative by individual is, I think, the basis of development. Former Soviet Union, stagnation. And China, although it is some sort of liberalization, but still, I think in thinking level, still some restrictions. I think that's the greatest obstacle. So then, work, whether, you see, can be constructive or destructive, ultimately depend on motivation. Even education, whether become constructive or destructive, even religious faith, become constructive or destructive, ultimately related with the motivation. So job, I think we need economic development. We need money. Now today, among 7 billion, I think majority of people still remain in poverty. Look, in Africa, and some Latin America, and some Asia, things are really terrible, really terrible. So we need further sort of economic development, not only for your own family or your own nation, but America, very, very important part of the world. So, because of that, through work, more further development, and then help or share those because of the suffering people. Then here is the capitalism. One time I was in then Czechoslovakia. Immediately they got freedom. on the invitation of President Havel. I had, I think, first the foreign visitors. At that time, I expressed your socialism now failed. A capitalist sort of way alone also, you see, create gaps rich into poor and some sort of difficulties. Although a free country, you see, the regulations and rules and free media, very, very helpful. There are corruptions, but I think limited corruptions. Whereas in closed society, corruption, limitless corruption, because everything controlled. So no freedom of sort of public expressions like that, or criticisms like that. But still, you see, there are some sort of problem. So at that time, I expressed, now time come. The socialist sort of, what's the narrow-minded sort of thinking collapsed. Now you have the time or opportunity, think, more discussion. Through that way, some kind of synthesize the dynamic sort of force of capitalism must accept. At the same time, not completely neglect about the socialist sort of special to pay attention about the general public and poor people, poor section of people. So some kind of synthesize, I express that. So, so job is very, very important. Jobless people, not only their own sort of life, jobless, difficult, and also see, I was told some Tibetan in Switzerland or some European countries, you see, they remain jobless. So on the basis of just
unemployment benefits.
Oh, I think that is morally, I think, wrong. If physically cannot work, that's the exception. Otherwise, you see, physically fit work, and I think individual have the responsibility to make contribution, better world in the economy field. So must take job, work. If 7 billion human beings, or at least 6 billion, become jobless, I think then the world will starve. So you are capitalist, very important. As far as making money, very good. But that alone not sufficient.
Let's turn now to a member of the AEI community, Troy Fowler from Tampa, Florida.
Your Holiness, is eliminating severe poverty across the globe an achievable objective? And if so, what are the respective roles of free enterprise, philanthropy, and government to achieve this goal?
That's, as I already mentioned, I am not an economist. So economy matter. I always telling people, if I manage some economy business world, and I think within a week make bankruptcy. I really don't know. So now point is, you see, you have to sort of think wider way. I think one day, one family from Bombay seems to be a very rich family. So they come to see me and ask me some blessing. Then I told them, I have nothing to offer in form of blessing, nothing. And sometimes even, you see, the blessing is something miracle power, so I'm skeptical. I don't believe. I consider action is more important than blessing or prayer. Do you agree? While our lunching, you mentioned about spiritual values, isn't it? I think in this respect, my mind more like as a scientist. I think 1,000 years, everybody used to pray to God, pray, but a lot of problems there. We can't say God lacking compassion. No. God is infinite love. But we pray, but fail to materialize what we want. So action is important. Science develop. With the help of science, technology develop. Then much problem solved through technology, not through prayer. Isn't it? I think we Tibetans also, you say, 1,000 years, always pray to Buddha, but we suffer a lot. So then I told them that in the family, you see, you have this ultimate source of blessing. It seems you are a wealthy family. So out of your profit, spend more, or some portion of your profit to look after those homeless people in Bombay, slums.
In slums.
Or education, health. That's the real source of blessing. So some American sort of multinational companies are there.
Multinationals.
Multinational company. Some are really spending a lot of money for education field or research to work. Wonderful. So it is much better if you spend money on these fields rather than, you see, a lot of cars, a lot of beautiful sort of the building, and then touring different places with highly expensive. Expensive. And luxurious type, not good. I think existing your luxurious way of life, not sustainable sort of lifestyle. You are looking very seriously. So I think when we terms of 7 billion human beings, the economy, and this is the gap south and north, already is some sort of problems, some gaps there. So this gap, not only, I already mentioned, is not only morally wrong, but also practically a source of problem. So we have to sort of raise the poorer section of the people, global level. Then I think the nature resources also now problem. There's already some indication the nature resources is some kind of limitation. Although you see, with help of scientific research, using the nature resources, clean
energy,
clean energy, or solar sort of energy, these things, wonderful. But still, a lot of problems will increase. So we need thinking more global level. Yes, next.
David Brooks from the New York Times.
I just wanted to ask you who your heroes are. Which individuals have you met you admire the most and who represent the values that you've been talking about?
Heroes.
Oh. I think firstly, of course, I never met personally, but you see, everybody knows Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi. And then Martin Luther King. I think wonderful people. Wonderful people. Then those people among I personally met, the late President Havel. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And of course, there are many others. Then, as I briefly mentioned, the previous the Pope also is really wonderful. Now, this present Pope had not yet met But I think within next few months, I think we're going to. I will have sort of opportunity meeting. I really admire his sort of simplicity life. Very good, very good. And at the lunchtime, I mentioned to you, he dismissed one German bishop, Bishop Marbe.
No,
I think one German.
it's a cardinal.
I think the preacher or leader, his sort of private lifestyle, because of very, very expensive. So newspaper, you see, I saw his bathtub, I think 30,000 euro or something. That clearly shows he practiced hypocrisy. I think he must sort of telling people in church simplicity. But in order to tell other people, first, they themselves sort of lifestyle must be symbol. Sometime back, I was in Latin America, Mexico. So near Mexico City is the one, Kare, Labdati, Ka,
Theological seminary.
Mari. Popes, the Labdati,
Seminary.
Mari. One college, Ka, or Pontifical University. They invited me, and then I'm very glad meet spiritual brothers, sisters. Then, while we are discussing, I also mentioned sometimes religious faith remain on dress. When you dress the religious thing, you look very holy. When dress aside, no longer. So the audience, you see, very much sort of
Applauded.
Applauded. You see, so that means they agree. The next day, so one, I think Archbishop, I don't know, one sort of great leader, Christian. You see, he personally came to see me, and he expressed he very much appreciate. You see, once we accept faith, we must implement. We must be sincere. We must be serious. Otherwise, you see, faith become lip service. Then cheating other people. So you see that German, I think bishop or something, I think he not implement what he teach, what he taught other people. So Pope found it's not right, so he dismissed him. I think wonderful. So I'm looking forward to see him. I think really wonderful.
Charles Murray.
Your Holiness, I would like very much to know what books have meant the most to you.
Of course, I am Buddhist. And then Tibetan tradition, usually I describe Tibetan tradition is, I think, one of the most sort of famous Buddhist institution in India, Kazare. I think first century.
Second century now.
I think before century.
No.
BC.
No, before the Common Era. No.
Oh, so at least I think several centuries remain as a key center, learning center. That's Nalanda institution in Bihar, Marbe. Some Indian. You Indian? Or Sri Lanka? You from?
He's from Kansas, Your Holiness.
But your parents? Huh?
Andhra Pradesh.
Andhra Pradesh, like that. Okay. Oh, so
Everybody in Kansas is like this.
Right. So most successful sort of Americans are not Native American. Most come from Russia or Europe or Saxon survey,
Anglo-Saxon countries.
like that, and number of Indians also. In any way,
we're all immigrants, Your Holiness.
because I didn't get to share. So therefore, 8th century, one great scholars, as well as great practitioner, great monk from Nalanda, invited by Tibetan emperor, 8th century. So he introduced Buddhism according to Nalanda tradition. So Nalanda tradition very much emphasizes rigorous study. So eventually translation, mainly from Indian language, Sanskrit and Pali, perhaps some Nepalese. From Chinese, about, I think, 15, 20 volumes. But then the rest of 300 volumes, all translated from India. So the way our study, firstly, they memorize the root text. Then gradually, word by word, explain according commentary. The root text wrote by Nalanda masters, and major important commentary also, you see, wrote by Nalanda sort of masters. I study, as I mentioned, I think lunchtime, you see, I began study at age 6, 7 years. So officially, I'm very Kasota.
High throne, right?
High throne, but actually, I think a very good for tradition. My tutor treated me like ordinary student. So he kept weep beside him. So in early period, my study, not out of enthusiasm from within, but out of fear. But then gradually, about, I think, 15, 16-year-old, then I really developed interest. Then you see practice. So really, Sutta was helpful. My sort of, way of thinking, mental peace. So and then some difficult philosophical sort of text. I most favorable. You see, these difficult texts. In order to compete like him, he also just spent a lot of about
12 years.
12 years study, rigorous study. So in order to compete. Then I also, you see, even these days, whenever I have sort of leisure time, I always study these textbooks. So really, even it's helpful to bring inner strength, self-confidence. So no matter what the environment or your situation, you have the ability, if you utilize human brain properly, or combine smart brain and warm-heartedness combinedly, you can maintain peaceful person, peaceful mind. That also very, very helpful to utilize human intelligence objectively, properly. I think my age, physical age, getting older, but my mind, I think quite sharp still. Not through necessarily meditation, close meditation. Many of people, you see, consider meditation means close eyes and remain thoughtlessness. Not that way. but analytical meditation. Analyze, everything analyze. That's Nalanda tradition, really. So that sort of really immense help to increase sharpness of your mind. Now I'm challenging my two scientists or friends. When we discuss, say, a certain subject, those scientists in their own special field, when they give presentation, when we look really, they really make presentation with full sort of confidence. And when we listen, we find some small contradiction here and there. That afterward, with respect, with generous of respect, then raise some sort of questions. Then some of these experts, they already sort of, because of the give presentation with full confidence, but then they, I have to think. So we train that way. Always to say that,
So the Tibetan academic system of training,
Nalanda tradition.
The Nalanda tradition emphasizes debate as a primary form of inquiry. So when you engage with a topic, first you need to understand what are the other person's perspectives on these standpoints, and then one needs to be able to formulate one's own viewpoints. Then in addition to that, also need to be able to defend that viewpoint in response to objections and criticism raised by others. So that's the three main parts of that training.
So in order to carry that, at the beginning, skepticism is very essential. So therefore, Buddha's own sort of advice or teaching mentioned, my follower should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So we follow that. It's very, very helpful, very helpful. So some of those Nalanda masters, they actually reject some of Buddha's own teaching. There are thorough investigation. Certain sort of Buddha's teaching contradict, so go against the reality. So therefore, they have the liberty, they take liberty to reject Buddha's own sort of word. So that's really helpful, you see, to open our sort of the ability of investigation. So, of course, then in a modern subject, of course, in 60s, I have sort of a lot of interest about astronomy, galaxies, then physics, the quantum physics, especially quantum physics. I really, because of the keen interest about these things. And then many sort of scientific sort of because of the findings. And here one brain specialist now here, you see, when we listen, you see, they are finding really remarkable, wonderful. Although Buddhist literature also mentions something, but compare modern sort of science or their awareness, you see, the Buddhist explanation, as far as the matter is concerned, still old way of thinking. Mind is concerned, emotion is concerned. I think ancient Indian sort of psychology is highly developed, highly advanced. So if may I say so, the modern Western psychologists, you see, their knowledge is something, compare ancient Indian psychology is something like a kindergarten level. But matter is concerned, you see, they are really highly developed. We are like kindergarten level. So we have to learn from them. So last nearly 30 years, our sort of very close sort of collaboration or discussion is immense benefit to both, mutual benefit, like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our time, and His Holiness has 200 students in the very next room. The reason you can't hear them is we've asked them to be quiet. But after a short break, His Holiness will be joining the students that are next door in the room, and we want to give them a quick break. But I want to make a few words of thanks, first of all. The first is to your wonderful team that have made this possible, with special thanks to Chime Rinzing, who's done a terrific job.
We have... Chime is in there. Okay.
We're grateful to the Central Tibetan Administration, who have also made this possible, with particular thanks to the Sikyong, the Prime Minister of Tibet. This, as those of you who know, of course, Lobsang Sangye.
I usually describe him elected political leadership. 2011, we start elected political leadership. Then my position is semi-retired position. Then 2011, now I completely retired. So whole my sort of political responsibility now handed over him. So I usually describe, as far as the political matter is concerned, he is my boss.
The Tibetan administration is in fine hands with the Sikyong. Also delighted that we have Kedor Alkatsang with us, who's from the Central Tibetan Administration, and we're very grateful for that. None of this would have been possible had it not been for the leadership of Radio Free Asia, doing a stupendous job all around the world to bring the ideas of freedom, opportunity, and enterprise to communities everywhere, especially those who are most oppressed. And we have special thanks to the president of Radio Free Asia, Libby Liu, as well as Kalden Lodo. His Holiness referred to many times to the scientists among our midst. Now, we're social scientists here at AEI, but these are hard scientists from the Mind Life Institute, which is if those of you who are not familiar with their work, please familiarize yourselves with it. It's a fundamental resource to the betterment of humanity, what they're doing. And I have special gratitude for Arthur Zayance and his wonderful team who are collaborating in this two-day endeavor. As always, the AEI trustees, the AEI supporters, the AEI scholars and staff make it possible for us to collaborate in new and interesting ways for the global cause of humanity, such that, as His Holiness says, we can have smart brains and warm hearts. Thank you to all of you in the AEI community, and most of all, thank you to His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.